A lonely billionaire, Émile Laurent, hires a nanny, Claire Dubois, to pretend to be his wife on vacation. But he wasn't prepared for. How far would you go to protect a secret that could change your life forever? Stay until the end to find out. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. Émile sat alone in the grand living room of his Paris apartment, the walls adorned with modern art that spoke of wealth and success. The soft glow of the afternoon sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden patterns on the sleek marble floor. He absently traced the outline of a family photo on the polished coffee table, his heart heavy with memories that felt more like shadows than fond recollections. In the photograph, he was surrounded by smiling faces, his late wife, his sister, and his niece, all radiating joy. But that joy had long since faded, leaving behind a hollow ache that echoed through the lavish halls of his isolated life. The room, despite its opulence, felt cold and empty, a stark reminder of what he had lost. Émile had built an empire in the tech world, a thriving company that redefined innovation, yet the success felt meaningless without the warmth of love and family. The laughter that once filled his home had been replaced by silence, and the weight of his solitude pressed heavily on his shoulders. He glanced at the clock on the wall, the ticking sound amplifying the stillness around him. It was time to make a change. With a deep breath, Émile picked up his phone and began searching for a nanny. His niece, Juliette, had been staying with him since the tragedy that had struck their family, and while he adored her, he felt unqualified to fill the role of both guardian and parent. She deserved stability, a semblance of normalcy, especially during the upcoming family holiday at their estate in the countryside. He envisioned a sunny week filled with laughter, where Juliette could play outside amidst the vineyards and feel the warmth of family, even if it was just the two of them. As he scrolled through profiles, a particular listing caught his eye. Claire, an aspiring artist from a small town, with a vibrant outlook on life and a passion for nurturing creativity. Her smile in the photo was infectious, contrasting sharply with the sterile ambience of his apartment. He felt an unexpected tug at his heartstrings, a flicker of hope in his otherwise bleak existence. He decided he would meet her, and perhaps she could bring a bit of color back into his life. The next day, Émile stood in his expansive office, the room lined with bookshelves that seemed to stretch endlessly, filled with tomes of knowledge and innovation. He was a man of power, yet he felt vulnerable as he prepared for Claire's arrival. He wanted to present himself as a strong figure and not the broken man he felt inside. His assistant, Margot, had set everything up, ensuring that the meeting would go smoothly. When Claire arrived, Émile was struck by her presence. She entered the room with an air of confidence, her bright eyes scanning the opulence that surrounded her with a mixture of awe and trepidation. She wore a simple sundress, a stark contrast to the designer suits and tailored outfits that Émile was accustomed to seeing. The moment their eyes met, he felt an unexplainable connection, a spark of curiosity that ignited something within him. "Mr. Émile," she greeted, her voice warm and inviting. "Thank you for meeting with me." "Please, call me Émile," he replied, motioning for her to take a seat. He couldn't help but admire the way she carried herself, a blend of innocence and determination. As they talked, Claire spoke passionately about her love for art, her dreams of showcasing her work in galleries, and her desire to inspire children through creativity. Émile found himself captivated by her enthusiasm and genuine spirit. She was unlike anyone he had met in his world of high-stakes business and societal expectations. "I appreciate your application, Claire," he said, leaning back in his chair, trying to mask his intrigue with professionalism. "I need someone to care for my niece during our family holiday. It's a bit unconventional, but I'm looking for a nanny who can also pretend to be my wife for the duration of the trip. It's to avoid the endless questions from relatives." Claire blinked, her brow furrowing slightly as she processed his words. "Pretend to be your wife?" she echoed, a hint of disbelief in her tone. "That's unusual." Émile felt a flush of embarrassment creeping up his neck. "I know it sounds strange, but my family can be quite intrusive. They mean well, but I'd rather not explain my personal life to them, especially after everything that has happened." I thought it would be simpler if I had someone by my side who could play the part. Claire studied him for a moment, her bright eyes searching for sincerity. And I suppose you think I can pull that off? He nodded, a faint smile breaking through his otherwise stoic demeanor. I believe so. You have a certain charisma that I think my family would appreciate. Plus, Juliet would benefit from having someone fun and engaging around. Claire leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. The idea was absurd, yet there was something undeniably appealing about the adventure. What would it entail? She asked cautiously, her curiosity piqued. Just a week in the countryside, enjoying the estate, engaging in family activities, and perhaps a few staged moments for show. He paused, gauging her reaction. In return, I can offer a salary well above standard for a nanny, plus an opportunity to experience a life that might inspire your art. Claire bit her lip, contemplating the offer. The thought of spending a week in a luxurious chateau, surrounded by nature and perhaps finding inspiration for her art, was tempting. Yet, the idea of deception gnawed at her conscience. And what if someone finds out? She asked, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. Emile leaned forward, his expression earnest. I promise you, it won't be complicated. I just need someone to help me keep up appearances. It's a temporary role, and I assure you, it will be a week filled with laughter and light. After a few moments of silence, Claire took a deep breath, her adventurous spirit winning over her reservations. Okay, she said, a smile breaking across her face. I'll do it, but I want to make it clear that I won't just be a prop. If I'm going to be your wife, I'll bring my own flair to the role. Emile couldn't help but chuckle, the tension in the room easing. I wouldn't expect anything less. I think you'll find that my family is not as daunting as they might seem. As they finalized the details, Emile felt a sense of relief wash over him. Perhaps this unconventional arrangement would not only benefit Juliet, but also offer him a chance to reconnect with a part of himself he had buried deep within. Claire's vibrant energy was like a breath of fresh air, and he found himself looking forward to the upcoming holiday, something he hadn't anticipated. Little did they both know that their journey together would lead to unexpected revelations, testing the boundaries of their staged romance and unearthing feelings they never thought possible. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Emile felt a flicker of hope, a promise of new beginnings. The chateau loomed ahead, a majestic structure that seemed to rise from the lush vineyards surrounding it. Emile drove slowly along the gravel path, his mind racing with thoughts of the family gathering ahead. Claire sat beside him, her heart pounding in rhythm with the tires crunching over stones. It was a daunting sight, so different from the small apartment she had called home. The grandeur of the estate was overwhelming, and she fought against the wave of insecurities that threatened to engulf her. As the car came to a stop, Claire took a deep breath, attempting to steady her nerves. Emile looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Ready?" he asked, an edge of uncertainty in his voice that mirrored her own feelings. "Absolutely," she replied, forcing a smile that she hoped conveyed confidence. She stepped out of the car, the sound of gravel crunching underfoot echoing in the still air. The chateau was even more beautiful up close, its stone facade bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun. "Wow," she breathed, her eyes wide with awe. Emile chuckled softly, his gaze drifting toward the grand entrance. "It's a bit much, isn't it? Just remember, it's all for show." Claire nodded, her smile faltering as she caught sight of the opulent surroundings. She suddenly felt like an imposter in this world of wealth and privilege. "I'll just do my best to blend in," she replied, determination lacing her words. As they walked toward the entrance, Claire's heart raced with each step. Emile pushed open the heavy oak doors, revealing a lavish foyer adorned with exquisite artwork and grand chandeliers. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers from the arrangements that decorated every surface. It was breathtaking, but it also made her feel small and insignificant. Emile led her through the grand hallway, where family portraits lined the walls, gazing down at them with an air of expectation. "Just be yourself," he murmured, sensing her unease. "My family can be curious." Before she could respond, a voice rang out from the living room. "Emile, you made it." A woman rushed toward them, her arms open wide. She was tall and elegant, with an infectious energy that seemed to fill the room. Emil's sister, Camille, enveloped him in a warm embrace before stepping back to survey Claire. "And you must be Claire," Camille exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I've heard so much about you. Emile never mentioned how lovely you are." Claire felt her cheeks flush under Camille's enthusiastic gaze. "Thank you. It's nice to meet you," she stammered, her confidence wavering. Emile cleared his throat, stepping slightly in front of Claire. "Camille, we're here too?" Yes, you're here for the family holiday. I was just telling everyone how thrilled I am to finally meet Emile's wife." Camille interrupted, her excitement palpable. "The family will be so pleased." Claire exchanged a quick glance with Emile, who looked equally startled. "Wife, right," he muttered, his tone dry. "I hope you're ready for a weekend full of fun," Camille continued, oblivious to the tension. "We have a big dinner planned tonight, and you'll get to meet the whole clan. Come, let me show you around." Claire followed Camille through the expansive rooms, trying to absorb the lavishness while also keeping her nerves in check. The family members they passed greeted Emile with warmth, each one more extravagant than the last. Claire felt like a fish out of water, trying to maintain her composure as questions flew her way. "So, how did you two meet?" Emile's cousin, Luke, inquired, his eyes narrowing slightly as he assessed her. "Oh, we met through a mutual friend," Claire answered, her voice steady. "Emile was looking for some help, and I was happy to assist." Luke raised an eyebrow, clearly not satisfied with her answer. "And you decided to marry him? That's quite the leap," he said, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Claire felt the heat rise to her cheeks, but kept her expression neutral. "Well, it's a bit unconventional, but you know how it is in the modern world," she replied, smiling brightly, hoping to deflect the scrutiny. Emile stepped in, his tone firm. "We're just enjoying the countryside together, Luke. Let's focus on the evening ahead." As the dinner hour approached, Claire found herself seated between Emile and Camille at the long, elegantly set table. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter as Emile's family engaged in animated conversations. Claire felt a mix of fascination and anxiety. Every story shared seemed to draw her further into their world, yet she remained acutely aware of her status as an outsider. "Claire, what do you do for fun?" Emile's mother, Margot, asked, her eyes sparkling with interest. "I'm an artist," Claire replied, her passion momentarily overshadowing her nerves. "I love painting and capturing the beauty around me." "Oh, how wonderful," Margot exclaimed. "We could use some fresh art in the family. Do you paint landscapes? Perhaps you could create something of the chateau." Claire's heart raced at the thought. "I would love to. This place is enchanting. I can already envision a piece inspired by the vineyards," she said, her excitement growing. Emile watched her with a mixture of admiration and something he couldn't quite place. He had expected this weekend to be a mere formality, a way to distract his family from his past. But as he witnessed Claire effortlessly charm his relatives, he felt a flicker of something deeper igniting within him. As the evening wore on, laughter echoed through the dining room, and Claire began to relax. She shared stories about her small-town life, her dreams of becoming a renowned artist, and the strange twist of fate that had brought her to this chateau. The warmth and acceptance from Emile's family were unexpectedly comforting. "To new beginnings," Camille toasted, raising her glass. "And to Claire, for breathing fresh air into our home." As glasses clinked and laughter erupted, Claire caught Emile's eye across the table. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a fragile connection that began to weave itself into the fabric of their staged relationship. Later that night, after the dinner guests had dispersed, Claire found herself outside on the terrace, the cool night air brushing against her skin. Stars twinkled above, illuminating the sprawling vineyards that stretched out before her. Emile joined her, his presence solid and comforting. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly, gazing at the night sky. "Yes, it truly is," Claire replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's like a painting come to life." Emile turned toward her, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. "Do you ever feel like you're living in a dream, Claire? Like everything happening around you is too good to be true?" Claire studied him, sensing the weight behind his words. "All the time," she confessed. "But I think dreams can become a reality if we let them." He smiled faintly, and for a moment, the barriers between them seemed to dissolve. They stood in comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts, yet connected by the shared experience of vulnerability. As they gazed at the stars, Claire felt the fragile bond between them strengthen. She had come to the chateau to play a role, but now she found herself wanting to know Emile beyond the facade. In that moment, under the vast expanse of the night sky, the possibility of something real began to take shape, a connection that neither had anticipated, yet both desperately needed. Emile awoke to the gentle sound of birds chirping outside his window, the morning sun spilling golden light into his room. He stretched languidly in bed, still feeling the comfort of the previous night's conversations with Claire. There was something about her that stirred feelings he had long buried beneath layers of grief and solitude. With a sigh, he pushed himself out of bed, deciding to take a stroll through the garden before breakfast. As he stepped outside, the fresh air enveloped him, carrying with it the fragrance of blooming flowers. He wandered to a quaint corner of the garden, where he spotted Claire, her easel set up and her focus entirely absorbed in her work. She was painting with vibrant strokes, her brows furrowed in concentration, and Emile found himself captivated by her artistry. The way her fingers danced over the canvas was mesmerizing, each movement filled with intent and passion. "Good morning, Claire," Emile called out, his voice cutting through the serene morning air. She looked up, her face lighting up with a smile that felt like a warm embrace. "Morning, Emile," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "What do you think?" She gestured to the canvas, revealing a beautiful landscape of the chateau, with the vineyards stretching out in the background. The colors were vivid, almost alive, and Emile couldn't help but admire her talent. "It's stunning," he said genuinely, stepping closer to inspect her work. "You've captured the essence of this place perfectly." Claire beamed at the compliment, a hint of pink coloring her cheeks. "Thank you. I just love how the light hits the vines in the morning. It's like they're glowing." Emile nodded, his heart warming at her enthusiasm. "You really have a gift, Claire. I didn't realize how talented you are." She laughed lightly, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. "I've been painting since I was a child. It's my escape, my way of expressing myself. But I never imagined I'd get to paint such beautiful landscapes." He watched her for a moment, the way her eyes sparkled with passion. "What do you dream of doing with your art?" he asked, genuinely curious. Claire paused, her gaze drifting to the horizon as if searching for the words. "I want to have my own gallery one day, to showcase my work and share my vision with the world. But I'm not sure it's possible," she admitted, a shadow of doubt creeping into her voice. "Why not?" Emile pressed, his brow furrowed in concern. "You have the talent and the drive. You deserve to pursue your dreams." She looked back at him, her expression softening. "It's just, I come from a small town. People like me don't get to have galleries in Paris. It feels like a distant dream." "Don't underestimate yourself," he said firmly, surprising both of them with the intensity of his words. "If you truly want something, you'll find a way to make it happen. Trust me, I know how important it is to pursue one's passion." Claire smiled, a mixture of gratitude and admiration in her eyes. "Thank you, Emile. That means a lot coming from you." As they stood together, a comfortable silence enveloped them, filled with unspoken understanding. Emile found himself wanting to know more about her, to delve deeper into her world and her dreams. But just as he opened his mouth to ask another question, the sound of footsteps interrupted their moment. Luc, Emile's cousin, strolled into the garden, a smirk plastered across his face. Well, what do we have here?" he drawled, his eyes darting between Emile and Claire. "Is this what you've been doing all morning, Emile? Playing house with the nanny?" Emile felt a surge of irritation at Luc's interruption, but he maintained his composure. "We were just talking, Luc. What do you want?" Luc stepped closer, his posture oozing confidence. Just making sure my favorite cousin isn't getting too cozy with his little charade. I've seen the way you look at her." There was a challenge in his tone, one that made Emil's stomach twist uncomfortably. "Don't be ridiculous," Emil replied, his voice steady. "Claire is here to help me with my niece, nothing more." "Is that really all it is?" Luke pressed, his eyes narrowing. "Because it sure doesn't look that way. What happens when you have to go back to Paris? Are you going to keep pretending?" Claire shifted awkwardly, the tension in the air thickening. Emil shot her a reassuring glance, silently urging her not to take Luke's words to heart. "Claire is doing a fantastic job," Emil said, his tone firm. "She's more than capable of handling her responsibilities, and I don't appreciate your insinuations." Luke chuckled, the sound devoid of warmth. "Oh, come on, Emil. You can't fool me. I see the way you look at her. It's only a matter of time before feelings get involved. And what happens then? You'll break her heart like you did before?" Emil bristled at the mention of his past, a painful reminder of the scars he carried. "That's none of your business, Luke," he snapped, his patience wearing thin. "I'm not here to justify myself to you." Luke stepped back, his smirk faltering for a brief moment. "Just looking out for you, cousin. I'd hate to see you get hurt again, or worse, hurt her." With that, Luke turned on his heel and sauntered away, leaving a tense silence in his wake. Emil exhaled sharply, feeling the weight of Luke's words hang heavily in the air. He turned to Claire, who was quietly packing her supplies, her expression contemplative. "Are you okay?" Emil asked gently, stepping closer to her. She looked up, her blue eyes reflecting a mixture of emotions. "I'm fine. I didn't expect him to come in here and say those things." Emil ran a hand through his hair, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "I'm sorry you had to hear that. Luke can be insufferable sometimes." Claire offered a small smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's all right. I know my place here. I'm just the nanny, after all." "No, you're not just the nanny," Emil insisted, taking a step closer, his voice low. "You're so much more than that. You've brought life back into this place, and He cut himself off, realizing he had almost revealed too much. Claire looked at him intently, her gaze searching. "What do you mean?" "I just mean, I enjoy your company," he said finally, the honesty of his words surprising even himself. "It's refreshing. You make me feel things I thought I'd never feel again." There was a moment of silence, an invisible thread connecting them. Claire's expression softened, and Emil felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps there was something real between them, something worth exploring, despite the circumstances that had brought them together. But as the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, Emil couldn't shake off the unease that Luke's words had instilled in him. The fear of vulnerability lingered like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow the fragile bond he was beginning to forge with Claire. Would he be able to navigate these new emotions without falling back into the shadows of his past? Or would the weight of his heartache ultimately push Claire away, just as it had done before? As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the sprawling gardens of the chateau, Claire found herself captivated by a scene that spoke volumes about Emil's character. He sat at a wooden table beneath a sprawling oak tree, a tablecloth spread out with art supplies scattered across it. His niece, a bright-eyed girl named Juliet, was attempting to create a scrapbook for school, filled with memories and stories of their family. Emil, with a gentle smile that softened his usually stoic demeanor, guided her through the project, his fingers deftly helping her cut and arrange photographs. "Here, let's add this one," he said, holding up a picture of Juliet with her late mother, a moment frozen in time. The girl's expression shifted from excitement to a hint of melancholy. Claire watched from a distance, her heart warming at the sight. Emil noticed her gaze and beckoned her over, his eyes inviting her to join the intimate moment. "Claire, come help us," he called, his voice a melodic blend of authority and warmth. As she approached, Claire felt a flutter of uncertainty. She was an artist, not a caregiver, and yet she found herself swept into the moment. "What do you need me for?" she asked, trying to inject lightness into her voice. "We're trying to decide which stickers to use." Emile gestured toward a colorful array laid out before them. Juliet has exquisite taste, but I think she might need some adult supervision. Juliet giggled, her earlier sadness momentarily forgotten. I want to add the butterfly stickers. They're pretty. Emile leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. Butterflies, huh? They do symbolize transformation. What do you think, Claire? Should we go with the butterflies? Claire smiled, her heart fluttering at the way Emile engaged with his niece. Absolutely. Butterflies can represent your journey, Juliet. You can write about where you found each photo and what it means to you. Juliet's eyes sparkled with excitement. Can we do that, Uncle Emile? Of course, my little artist. Let's make this scrapbook reflect who you are and the memories you cherish. Emile's encouragement was genuine, and Claire felt an unexpected pang of admiration for him. In this moment, he wasn't just the billionaire CEO. He was a loving uncle, fully present, pouring his heart into Juliet's happiness. As they worked together, Claire found herself increasingly drawn to Emile. His laughter, though rare, felt like a precious gift. Emile's soft side was a stark contrast to the guarded man she had met days earlier, a man who seemed to hide behind walls built from his past. Can we add this one? Juliet asked, holding up a photo of their family enjoying a picnic in the park. Emile in the background, a broad smile on his face. Definitely, Emile replied, reaching for the photo. This was one of our best days. Remember the ice cream? Yum. I spilled mine all over my dress. Juliet exclaimed, her innocent laughter filling the air. Your dress was a casualty, but the ice cream was worth it, Emile chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Claire watched, her heart swelling with warmth. The connection between uncle and niece was palpable, and she marveled at how Emile was capable of such tenderness. It made her question her own feelings for him. Was this arrangement merely a facade, or was there something deeper blossoming between them? Later that evening, as twilight enveloped the chateau, Emile and Claire found themselves alone on the terrace, the air thick with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. The stars began to twinkle above, a blanket of shimmering light draping the sky. Claire stood leaning against the balustrade, lost in thought, when Emile joined her, his presence sending a ripple of warmth through her. Beautiful, isn't it? He said, nodding toward the night sky. It really is, Claire replied, her voice barely above a whisper. It's like a painting waiting to happen. Emile turned to her, his expression contemplative. You're an artist, right? What inspires you to create? Claire hesitated, unsure if she wanted to share her dreams with him, but the sincerity in his eyes urged her to open up. I find inspiration in the emotions people carry. The joy, the pain, the love. It all tells a story. I want my art to capture those moments, to evoke feelings in others. Emile studied her, his gaze intense. What about you? What do you feel? She swallowed hard, the weight of the question hanging between them. Right now, I feel confused. I thought I was just here to play a role, but her voice trailed off, the vulnerability of her admission hanging in the air. But Emile prompted gently, stepping closer, his presence both comforting and electrifying. I didn't expect to connect with you, she admitted, her heart racing. You're more than just a billionaire. You're kind and funny. I see a different side of you when you're with Juliet. A flicker of emotion crossed Emile's face. Surprise, perhaps, or relief. I'm glad you see that. It's easy to forget who I am beneath the business persona. I've built walls to protect myself, but sometimes I wonder if I've built them too high. Claire felt the intensity of his words, the unspoken pain that lay beneath them. We all have our walls, Emile. It's scary to let someone in. Yes, he said, his voice low and sincere. But sometimes it's worth the risk. The connection. It can be beautiful. The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken possibilities. Claire felt drawn to him, the warmth radiating from his body, wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. She wanted to lean in, to close the distance that felt so tantalizingly close yet so impossibly far. Emile, she started, her voice barely a whisper, but before she could finish, he took a step back, breaking the spell that had formed between them. "We should get some rest," he said, his voice strained as he turned away, the moments slipping like sand through their fingers. The sudden shift was palpable, and Claire felt a mix of disappointment and confusion. The next morning arrived with a heavy silence, an unspoken tension hanging over them. As they gathered for breakfast, Emile and Claire exchanged glances, each one filled with unexpressed thoughts. Juliet was blissfully unaware, excitedly telling them about her plans for the day. "Can we go to the lake after breakfast?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Of course," Emile replied, but Claire could see the shadow of distraction in his eyes. He was wrestling with something deep within, and Claire's heart sank at the thought that it might be related to their near kiss the night before. As they finished eating, Luke entered the room, his presence immediately shifting the atmosphere. "What are you two plotting over breakfast? The two of you look awfully cozy," he said, a smirk playing on his lips. Emile's eyes narrowed slightly. "Just planning our day, Luke." "Right," Luke said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "I hope you're not getting too close, Emile. We wouldn't want any scandals to ruin our family name." Claire felt a rush of heat flood her cheeks. The implications in Luke's words stung, but she forced herself to maintain composure. "Luke, we're just spending time together," Emile replied, his voice steady but edged with irritation. "You should focus on your own business rather than meddling in mine." Luke shrugged, clearly unfazed. "Just looking out for you, cousin. Family comes first, after all." As Luke left the room, a silence descended, heavy and suffocating. Claire glanced at Emile, who was staring into his coffee cup, troubled by the confrontation. She longed to reach out, to comfort him, but the walls between them felt higher than ever. "Emile," Claire began, unsure of what to say. But he cut her off, his voice tense. "I know you're just here for the role, Claire. I don't want to complicate things. We should stick to the plan." His words hit her like a cold wave, extinguishing the warmth they had shared. Claire's heart sank, torn between the feelings she had developed for him and the reality of their situation. She was just the nanny, after all. "Of course," she replied, forcing a smile, even as her heart ached. "Let's stick to the plan." As they prepared to head to the lake, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing something precious, something that might never be reclaimed. The day stretched out before them, filled with laughter and joy, yet a shadow loomed over her heart, leaving her to wonder if the connection they had built would survive the pressures of their reality. The evening's festivities were in full swing, laughter and chatter echoing through the grand dining room of Emile's family estate. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, their light casting a warm glow over the elegantly set table, adorned with exquisite china and finely crafted silverware. Emile, ever poised, held court at one end, a slight smile on his lips as he engaged his family in playful banter. Claire, seated beside him, felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her, her heart racing with each passing moment. However, the atmosphere shifted abruptly when Luke, Emile's cousin, raised his glass, a smirk dancing on his lips. "So, Emile, how's married life treating you?" he called out, his tone laced with mockery. The room quieted, all eyes now fixed on them, a palpable tension thickening the air. Claire felt her cheeks flush. She locked eyes with Emile, who maintained a calm facade, but she could sense the storm brewing beneath. "Luke, this isn't the time or place for your games," Emile replied, his voice steady but edged with annoyance. "Games? Come now. We're all family here. I just want to know how a man like you, who's spent his life building walls, suddenly decides to let someone in," Luke continued, his words dripping with sarcasm. Laughter erupted from a few relatives, their amusement feeding Luke's bravado. Claire's heart sank. She had braced herself for awkward questions, but this felt different, an attack. "Luke, that's enough," she interjected, her voice steadier than she felt. "Emile and I are pretending, of course," Luke interrupted, his gaze piercing. "You've been playing house for a week now. How long until you tire of this charade?" Emile's jaw clenched, and Claire could see the tension coursing through him. "That's enough," he repeated, his tone low but firm, like thunder rumbling in the distance. Luke shrugged, feigning innocence. Just pointing out the obvious. It's not every day we see Emile, the Ice King, thawing in the presence of a mere nanny. The laughter died down, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. Claire felt exposed, vulnerable under Luke's scrutiny, as if he were peeling back the layers she had carefully constructed. She could feel her heart racing, her hands trembling slightly on the table. Emile's gaze flicked to her, concern etched in his features. "Claire, let's step outside for a moment," he said, his voice softer now, a lifeline thrown in the turbulent sea of emotions. Without waiting for a response, he stood, offering his hand to her. Claire took it, grateful for his support, as they exited the opulent dining room. The cool night air embraced them as they stepped onto the terrace, the sounds of the party fading away into the background. Once outside, Emile turned to her, his expression shifting from concern to resolve. "I'm sorry about Luke. He's always been like this, looking for ways to provoke and belittle. You don't deserve that." Claire took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "I didn't sign up for this kind of humiliation, Emile. I thought we were in this together." "We are," he replied, stepping closer, his voice low and earnest. "But I can't control what others say. I just want you to know that this isn't a game for me. You mean more to me than I ever expected." She looked up at him, searching his eyes for sincerity. "Do you really mean that? Or is this just a convenient arrangement for you?" Emile's gaze softened, the walls he had built around himself beginning to crumble. "I've been afraid to let anyone in, but with you, it feels different. You see me, not just the billionaire everyone else sees. I care about you, Claire." Her heart swelled at his words, but doubt lingered. What if Luke is right? What if this is just a fantasy? What happens when we go back to Paris? Emile stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then we face it together. I don't want to lose you. Not now, not after everything we've shared." In that moment, the world around them faded away. The soft rustle of leaves in the night breeze, the distant laughter from the party. Everything seemed to vanish, leaving only the two of them suspended in time. Emile reached out, cupping her face with his hands, his touch warm and grounding. "Claire," he murmured, his gaze locked onto hers, "I've never allowed myself to feel this way about anyone. You've brought light into my life, and I want to explore that, whatever it means." The sincerity in his eyes ignited something within her, a spark of hope mingled with fear. "I want that too, Emile," she confessed, her heart racing as he leaned in, their lips just inches apart. But the moment was fragile, a tender thread that could easily snap under the weight of their circumstances. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence, shattering the intimate bubble they had created. Well, what do we have here?" Luke's mocking tone echoed from the doorway, a predatory glint in his eyes. Emile stepped back, his expression hardening as he glared at his cousin. "What do you want, Luke?" "I just wanted to check on my favorite couple. You know, see if you're still pretending," Luke said, with feigned innocence. "But it seems like you two are getting rather cozy out here. Isn't that sweet?" Claire felt her cheeks burn, a mix of anger and humiliation flooding her. "What do you want from us, Luke?" she shot back, trying to summon her courage. Luke's smile widened, revealing a hint of menace. "Oh, I'm just here to remind you of the stakes, dear Claire. You may think you're in love with Emile, but I know a few things that could easily change that." Emile's eyes darkened, a storm brewing within him. "You wouldn't dare." "Wouldn't I?" Luke leaned against the doorframe, casual but calculating. "I have secrets, Emile. Things that could ruin you, your precious reputation, and your little fantasy. Let's see how long Claire sticks around when the truth comes out." Claire's heart sank at Luke's words, dread pooling in her stomach. She looked at Emile, desperation in her eyes. "Emile, what is he talking about?" He took a step forward, fury radiating from him. "Look, you're crossing a line. Whatever you think you know, it doesn't matter. Claire is not a pawn in your twisted game. Isn't she?" Luke challenged, his tone dripping with malice. "You're playing house, but what happens when real life comes crashing down? I'd hate for Claire to be caught in the crossfire of your family drama." Claire felt the weight of Luke's words, a chill running down her spine. She turned to Emile, searching for reassurance. Emile, please tell me he's lying. Tell me this isn't true. Emile's eyes softened, pain flickering in their depths. Claire, I won't let him hurt you. Whatever he's threatening, we'll face it together. You're not alone in this. But as Luke's laughter echoed in the background, Claire couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom that loomed over them, threatening to unravel the fragile bond they had forged in the midst of chaos. The air in the grand dining hall of the chateau crackled with tension. The family had gathered for dinner, the clinking of silverware and the soft murmur of conversations creating a backdrop for the confrontation that was about to unfold. Emile sat at the head of the table, his expression a mix of determination and apprehension. Claire, seated beside him, could feel the weight of Luke's gaze piercing through her. She sensed that the moment of reckoning had arrived. Emile, Luke began, his tone dripping with feigned concern. Don't you think it's time we all talked about the elephant in the room? Or should I say, the wife at the table? His words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and the collective breath of the family was held in anticipation. Luke, I think we've had enough of your theatrics, Emile replied, his voice steady but edged with irritation. He glanced at Claire, who looked resolute, her chin lifted defiantly. The way she carried herself, even under pressure, sparked a flicker of admiration within him. Claire took a deep breath, interrupting the brewing storm. Actually, I have something to say, she announced, her voice strong enough to draw everyone's attention. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. Look, I know about Emile's past, she declared, meeting Luke's challenging gaze without flinching. I'm not just a hired nanny playing a role. I chose to be here, and I stand by Emile, no matter what you think or say. Luke's expression morphed from smugness to incredulity. You think you can just waltz in here and defend him? You don't know the real Emile. You're just a distraction, a pretty face to hide his shortcomings. Maybe you're the one who doesn't know him, Claire shot back, her voice unwavering. All you see is the billionaire. You don't see the man who carries the weight of loss and guilt. You've been so busy trying to undermine him that you've forgotten he's still part of this family. Murmurs rippled through the room, and Emile felt a warmth spread through him, pride mingling with astonishment at Claire's courage. He had expected her to withdraw, to cower under the pressure of Luke's accusations, but instead, she stood tall, embodying a strength he had long admired from afar. Enough of this, Luke's voice boomed, but now it lacked the confidence it had moments earlier. You think you're protecting him? I'm doing this for his own good. He can't keep hiding behind you. What will you do when the truth comes out? What truth? Claire pressed, her eyes narrowing. What are you trying to hide, Luke? As if on cue, the air hummed with suspense, and the family shifted uneasily in their seats. The tension was palpable, and Emile felt a knot forming in his stomach. What was Luke's game? Let's not pretend here, Luke replied, an unsettling smile creeping onto his face. I've heard whispers about your little business ventures. Perhaps if Emile wasn't so consumed by you, he'd notice what's happening right under his nose. Claire turned to Emile, her expression a mix of confusion and concern. What's he talking about? She asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could respond, Luke's facade began to crack. You don't know, do you? The family business isn't as pristine as you think. There are funds disappearing, and guess who's been handling the finances? Yours truly. Luke's laughter was hollow, echoing through the room. Emile's heart raced as realization dawned. You're lying, he spat, a cold fury igniting within him. You've always been resentful of my success, but this is low, even for you. Is it? Or is it just the truth? Luke leaned back in his chair, a smug grin plastered across his face. Why do you think I've been pushing you to keep Claire around? Because I knew your focus would shift away from what truly matters. And now, with her by your side, you're too busy playing house to see the real threat. Claire's eyes widened as she processed Luke's words. Emile, is this true? Is there something going on with the business? For a moment, Emile struggled to find his voice, but the fire in Claire's gaze urged him forward. No, Luke is just trying to deflect attention away from his own misdeeds. I've always suspected something was off, but I never wanted to believe it. And why should you believe me? Luke retorted, crossing his arms defiantly. I'm just the jealous cousin trying to ruin your happiness, right? Because I know you. Emil's voice rose, fueled by a surge of anger. You've always been envious, but I didn't think you'd stoop this low. You're trying to sabotage me, to save your own skin. At that moment, Emil's family began to murmur among themselves, the realization settling in. They had always regarded Luke as the dependable cousin, the one who had their back. But now, suspicion clouded the air, and Emil could see the shift in their loyalties. Emil, you can't just take this at face value, Claire urged, her concern evident. You need to look into the books, verify what he's saying. I will, Emil vowed, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. I'll investigate this, and if you're lying, Luke, he trailed off, the threat hanging in the air. Do what you want, Luke shrugged nonchalantly, though Emil could see the slight tremor in his hands. But don't say I didn't warn you. The truth has a way of coming out, Emil, and when it does, you'll be the one left standing alone. The tension in the room finally reached a boiling point, and Emil's family rallied around him, expressions of support and disbelief evident on their faces. They had always been united, but now the divide between loyalty and betrayal was starkly illuminated. Luke, you're out of line, one of Emil's uncles declared, his voice firm. We will look into this, and if you've been deceiving us, you'll answer for it. I'm just trying to protect our family, Luke protested, but the conviction in his voice was fading fast. As the family rallied around Emil, Claire felt a rush of relief. They were standing together, united against Luke's treachery. Emil turned to her, gratitude shining in his eyes. Thank you for standing up for me, he said, his voice low and sincere. I couldn't let him manipulate the situation, Claire replied, her heart racing. You deserve to be free of this burden. With Luke's mask slipping further, Emil felt the weight of his own secrets lifting. He had lived in the shadow of his past for too long, but now, with Claire by his side and his family's support, he felt ready to confront whatever lay ahead. In that moment, something shifted between them. The tension that had once been fraught with uncertainty transformed into a shared understanding. They were no longer just playing roles in a charade. They were partners facing the world together, and it was exhilarating. As the evening progressed, Emil and Claire found themselves stepping outside to escape the heated discussions. The cool night air enveloped them, and for the first time, they could breathe freely. Where do we go from here? Claire asked, her voice softening. Emil looked at her, the weight of the world lifting from his shoulders. We face it together, he replied, a newfound determination in his gaze. I want you in my life, Claire. Not just as my wife for a weekend, but as my partner. I want to build something real with you. Claire's heart raced, hope blooming within her. Are you sure? She asked, needing to hear his conviction. Absolutely, Emil affirmed, stepping closer. You've shown me what it means to be alive again. I don't want to hide anymore. Let's embrace this, whatever it is between us. And just like that, the barriers that had once held them apart crumbled. They stood under the stars, the weight of their pasts beginning to fade, ready to forge a future intertwined with dreams and love.